Antonio Brown's rise wasn't just impressive, it was cinematic. From a sixth-round pick with almost no expectations to one of the most explosive receivers the NFL had ever seen, his journey became a blueprint for underdog greatness. In his early seasons, Brown didn't just perform, he took over. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, highlight reel catches, Pro Bowl appearances, and eventually a Super Bowl ring with Tampa Bay. Every step of the way, his speed, precision, and swagger made him unforgettable. He didn't just run routes, he danced through defenses. He didn't just catch passes, he stole moments. But behind all the fireworks, there was always something brewing. The confidence that powered his rise also carried a storm. And while fans saw the celebrations, few noticed the cracks forming underneath. Brown's talent made him a star, but the drama behind the scenes was already shaping the next chapter of his story. But that rise came with issues, and those issues would catch up to him. Even at the height of his career, Antonio Brown's brilliance on the field was shadowed by chaos off it. The news was never far behind. Clips of later rivals, on-field confrontations, and heated locker room arguments became part of the public narrative. Social media amplified every misstep. Instagram rants, cryptic posts, and public disputes painted a portrait of a superstar whose talent was matched only by his volatility. To fans, he was a magician, dazzling with impossible catches and game-changing plays. But behind the cameras, the story was different. Teammates felt the tension, coaches navigated his unpredictability, and Brown himself wrestled with the relentless pace of his own life. For him, stopping wasn't an option. Every moment had to be maximized, every highlight seized. His world operated at 100 miles per hour, and while the flashes of greatness captivated millions, the undercurrents of turmoil hinted that it was only a matter of time before everything collided. That collision came in May 2025. On May 16, 2025, Antonio Brown's life took a dramatic and dangerous turn. What began as a high-profile celebrity boxing event in Miami quickly escalated into chaos. According to court documents, an altercation broke out after the event, involving multiple parties. In the midst of the confusion, Brown allegedly grabbed a handgun and fired 2 shots, with one reportedly grazing a man's neck. Brown maintains that it was self-defense, that he had been attacked and feared for his safety and his valuable jewelry. Yet, the legal documents tell a more complicated story, suggesting that the situation escalated far beyond a simple defensive reaction. The incident instantly thrust Brown into the national spotlight for reasons entirely different from his on-field exploits. From the glitzy Dubai skyline to the night streets of Miami, the scene resembled a cinematic crime thriller, the kind of moment that seemed ripped from a screenplay. Brown didn't vanish immediately, he fled the scene, hoping to evade the immediate fallout. But no matter how fast or high-profile the escape, the consequences were inescapable. For a man once defined by speed and skill on the football field, the real chase had only just begun. After the chaotic events in Miami, Antonio Brown took flight. Literally, he left the country, touching down in Dubai, seemingly trying to put distance between himself and the legal storm brewing back in the United States. But fleeing wouldn't erase what had happened, and it wouldn't stop the law from catching up. U.S. Marshals tracked him down, taking custody and arranging for his return. Interestingly, Brown was flown to New Jersey first, not Miami as the public had assumed, while prosecutors carefully built their case. The detour highlighted the complexity of international extradition, the legal choreography required when high-profile figures cross borders amid criminal investigations. In an unexpected turn, Brown didn't fight the process. He waived extradition. By choosing to return voluntarily, he signaled a willingness to confront the consequences rather than prolong the chase. It was a moment that juxtaposed his earlier flight with a measure of accountability. Brown, a man whose life had often been defined by speed and unpredictability, now faced a different kind of race, one dictated not by athleticism, but by law, courtroom strategy, and the weight of past actions. Back in the U.S., a new battle was about to begin, one far more daunting than any football game.
In Miami, Antonio Brown faced the gravity of his actions head-on. Standing in court, he pleaded not guilty to second-degree attempted murder, a charge that could carry a prison sentence of up to 15 years. The courtroom, usually a stage for legal procedure rather than emotion, felt charged with tension as the implications of his choices settled in. Despite the severity of the charge, a judge set bail at $25,000, allowing Brown temporary freedom under strict conditions, including the requirement to wear a GPS ankle monitor. For a man whose life and career were once defined by speed, agility, and the ability to evade defenders, the symbolism was stark. He was now being tracked step by step, every movement monitored, every decision scrutinized. Images of him walking out of the courthouse, arms raised, sometimes embracing his attorney, juxtaposed sharply against his former on-field dominance. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the contrast between the superstar who once dominated stadiums and the man now constrained by law enforcement was jarring. Through it all, one question hung over his story. Could Brown navigate the consequences of his actions and reclaim any part of the life and legacy he once commanded? Antonio Brown's story has always been larger than life. The dazzling catches, the breakaway touchdowns, the highlight reel moments that left defenders grasping at air. But now the narrative has shifted. His legacy, once defined purely by on-field brilliance, is complicated by legal battles, public scrutiny, and personal demons that can't be ignored. The same hands that rewrote records are no longer enough to shield him from the consequences of his actions. Off the field, Brown is navigating a maze of court dates, bail conditions, and the ever-watchful eyes of a public that once cheered him to the rafters. Late-night calls, moments of solitude, and the constant media coverage have replaced stadium lights and roaring crowds. For the first time, the world sees him not just as a football icon, but as a man grappling with his choices, his future, and the weight of his reputation. The contrast is stark. The superstar who once intimidated defenders is now facing challenges that can't be run around or outpaced. Brown's story is no longer just about greatness, it's about survival, accountability, and the personal cost of a life lived at full throttle, and the world is watching every step.
Antonio Brown's story has always captivated the NFL world, but this chapter elevates his saga beyond the gridiron. This isn't simply about crime or controversy. It's about redemption, reckoning, and the staggering price of fame. Once, Brown electrified stadiums with his blazing speed, fearless swagger, and impossible catches, leaving defenders in the dust and fans in awe. Every highlight felt like a testament to a generational talent. Yet now the spotlight has shifted to courtrooms, legal filings, and headlines that juxtapose his glory with chaos. The question hanging over him is as brutal as any blitz he faced. Will history remember him for brilliance or downfall? For defining moments that reshaped the wide receiver position, or for missteps that almost destroyed everything he built? Antonio Brown's saga is one of the wildest, most unpredictable in NFL history. A roller coaster of talent, ego, and consequence. And one truth remains immutable. His legacy isn't decided on the field anymore. It will be fought for, in the courtroom, through public perception, and in the hearts of fans who must reconcile the athlete they adored with the man confronting the weight of his own actions. Antonio Brown's journey through the NFL has been nothing short of extraordinary, filled with record-breaking performances, unforgettable catches, and moments that cemented him as one of the most electrifying wide receivers of his era. From humble beginnings as a sixth-round draft pick to multiple Pro Bowl selections and a Super Bowl championship, Brown seemed destined for greatness, redefining what it meant to dominate at his position. Yet, as spectacular as his on-field achievements were, his story has been equally marked by turbulence off the field, controversies, altercations, and now a legal saga that has captured national attention.
From Miami to Dubai, from courtroom doors to headlines documenting every twist, Brown's life has unfolded like a thriller, forcing fans and the public to grapple with the duality of talent and consequence. And now as he faces serious charges, the question isn't just about what he accomplished on Sundays. It's about what legacy will survive beyond the highlights. Is this the tragic fall of a once-celebrated legend, or the opening chapter of a comeback story that could redefine resilience in professional sports? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment sharing your perspective. Subscribe to stay on top of every development, every court date, and every evolving chapter in Brown's saga. Because in the NFL, as in life, the most compelling stories are never static. They persist, they challenge, and they refuse to be forgotten. Antonio Brown's saga is still being written, and the next act could change how the world remembers him forever.